Just 2 years ago, I was completely dead broke. I was living in a share flat in Sweden, sharing an apartment with three other university students in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere. I was washing dishes for $15 an hour in that tiny town in Sweden. I was buying discount groceries because I couldn't afford the food that I wanted to while I was chasing a professional dream as a footballer. And now I've got a Rolex. I'm driving the car I always dreamed of driving. I've got a beachfront apartment, living the exact life I wanted to be living. So how did I make this transformation? Well, in this video, I want to break down exactly how I did it, and specifically the three principles that I used, that I followed, that you can follow to do the exact same thing and make the exact same transformation in your life. So all the success that I've ever seen, and these three principles, it all starts with principle number one, which is clarity. When I was living in the share house in Sweden, paying $400 a month in rent, the first thing I did that led me to success was understanding and getting very clear of what I wanted. Let me use an analogy for you. Think of a sailor that's lost at sea, right? Think of a ship out in the ocean, a cruise ship. Right? If you do not know where you are going, with no clear direction, no end destination, how can you expect to get where you want to go? Step one is understand where you want to go. Figure out the dream island, the dream vacation, the dream destination where you want your future life to look like. And that's in the short term, in the next 3, 6, 12 months, but it's also in the next 5 and 10 years. Because again, if you don't understand where you're going, how can you expect your life to turn out that way? So what I did very well when I was living in Sweden is every single day, not only I reminded myself of what I wanted, but the first thing I did was I figured out what I wanted. So when I got very clear, I wrote down on a piece of paper, what do I want my life to look like in the short term, in the long term? Now I had 2 goals at the time: be a professional footballer and succeed in business and sales and entrepreneurship. They were the 2 paths I wanted, right? And once I understood that, I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and then I transferred it into this sheet called Alchemy of Self that I learned from a business mentor. And then when I got clear, I wrote down what my goals were. I read them to myself every single day. I wrote down the person who I needed to become to achieve these goals. And then I just looked at it every single day until it started becoming true. All the success you'll ever see in your life all starts with getting clear on what you want, because if you do not have direction, you are not going to achieve your goal. Principle number one is get very clear on what you want, which leads us onto principle number 2, which is belief. If you do not believe you will get there, you will not set sail, right? Think of any high pressure moment in your life. You needed a belief to succeed in that moment. Let's use a third person, for example. Not me, not you. Let's say his name is John. John is on an island, island A. There's island B. Between the 2 islands, A is his current situation, B is his dream life, exactly where he wants to go. And in between them is a rope, right? A wooden rope attached together with some strings and some wood. If John, even though everything he's ever wanted is on the other island, does not have the belief that crossing this bridge, he will survive and he will get there, he is not going to take the first step, and he is not going to start walking the walk, right? And yes, this belief is external within the bridge, but the same thing goes on in your head. If you do not have an unreal belief and conviction in achieving this goal, you're not going to start walking, and ultimately you're never going to get to that island. You're not going to achieve the goal that now you're very clear on achieving. Without beliefs, nothing will come to fruition in your life, simply put. Right? Which is why beliefs, the beliefs you have that go into your head, whether you can achieve the outcome or not, is just as important as figuring out what you want. Now, with that analogy I gave you, let's maybe give you a more tangible one that you've maybe experienced in your life, right? Let's say you're an athlete. Let's say you're a footballer. You're running down the left wing, right? You're attacking. There's a defender coming at you and you've got the ball. If you don't have the belief, the confidence, the conviction that you are better than this person, that you're going to beat them one-on-one, what are you going to do? You're going to turn back and you're going to pass the ball backwards. So without this belief, you're not going to take the step. You're not going to score the goal. If you have the belief, if you have the conviction, you're going to take the step, you're going to make the run, you're going to make the skill move, and you're going to at least try to score that goal. And what I mean by this is that your beliefs, the thoughts that play out in your head, very much dictate the actions that you take. So the second principle is belief. Once you get clear on what you want, You have to believe that you can achieve this goal. Everything that you've ever wanted starts with believing it to be true and believing it to be possible. If you don't think it's possible, you're not even going to try, and you're going to give up, and you're going to stay in the exact same spot. You're going to stay stuck. So that brings us onto the third principle that I use to achieve some success in my life. Once you understand the end destination, you're a sailor at sea again, understand the island you want to go to, and you start rowing, you turn on the boat, you start the engine. The third thing you have to do is keep rowing, keep going, keep putting in the work to get where you want to go. Imagine you're a footballer. You understand you want to play for Manchester City, and you have the belief you can get there, but then you don't train. The previous two principles don't mean anything without the third. Even if you understand exactly what you want, you tell yourself every morning, I'm going to play for Man City. I'm going to play for Man City. I'm going to do it. I'm going to achieve my biggest dreams. And you have the belief, because you've told yourself so many times, you truly believe it, but you don't train, you don't show up, you don't eat well, you're not going to achieve that goal. Same with anything in life. Everything, once you get clear on what you want, which makes it very easy to do the work, and you believe it to be true, which makes it very easy to keep doing the work, you still need to do the work. It's always going to be you at your desk needing to do the work that no one loves doing. The work you're avoiding, the things you're avoiding in your life is probably what you need to do the most. I've seen that many times in my life. Before I got started, I was watching Game of Thrones when I was living in my share household. I don't know, 6 hours a day of Game of Thrones. But the work I needed to be doing was studying, researching, seeing what could get me to my goals. That's the work I didn't want to do, but it's also the work that I needed to do, that I ended up doing once I got clear on what I wanted, and once I believed it to be true, the work I did that got me to my goal. That's it for this video. In summary, get very clear on what you want to achieve, short term, long term. Believe it to be true. Tell yourself, wake up and tell yourself every single day, to where you program your mind to believe it to be true. Once you have that belief, you know what you want, set sail, start doing the work. The work is what needs to be done. Nothing else in your life will get you to where you want to go apart from doing the work that you don't want to do. Very simple. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got some value from it, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.